Welcome to another episode of the Titans of the Southwest podcast with your host, Big Mo, and my partner.
Lito.
Yeah, we're here. We just sat down with at Brickwall Blitz, Jonathan Kinsley. Had a great interview with him. Lito, what do you think? How do you think that went?
Oh man, that was a blast. It was so cool. The guy was super chill, really easy to talk to, and just really knowledgeable, man. He was able to break down a lot of stuff and answer a lot of our questions. I mean, we kept the poor guy on the phone for probably a lot longer than he was thinking, but I had fun. It's almost too much fun. But
Yeah, it was fun, man. It was fun. I mean, we hit on a lot of things this episode. We talked obviously about the Titans, about Marcus Mariota, about the offense. Kind of touched a little bit on the Mariota Winston debate. Um, what else did we hit on? Hit a little bit on defense. Spent a good chunk talking about Byard, why he's the next top tier safety in the NFL.
yeah,
What
touched on
else? What else
receiver.
did we?
We talked about
Receivers,
receivers, yeah.
and we even talked about the Browns. Man, he's a Browns fan, so we spent a good amount of time talking a little bit of Browns at towards the end of the podcast. He was a great guy, great guest. Couldn't have had a better time, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. He was able to break down a lot of the X's and O's, well, what we can expect from LaFleur, what he's going to bring over from the Rams offense and how it's going to transition into Mariota's skill set. He was great. It was a pleasure having him on, and yeah, we had a lot of fun.
All right, man. Well, I guess let's jump into the show.
All right, without further ado, here we go with the interview with John Kinsley, or Jonathan Kinsley at Brickwall Blitz, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Tighten up.
Tighten up.
Follow us on Twitter at Titans Southwest. And remember to like and subscribe to the podcast, as well as review and share.
All right, thank you for joining us today. We're here with John Kinsley. You might know him on Twitter as Jonathan Kinsley at Brickwall Blitz. John has been kind of taking a tour of all the Titans podcasts over the last few weeks, and he's joining us today to give some of his thoughts on the team, some of the players on the team, and where he kind of, from an objective point of view, sees them going. John?
Hey Mo, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Not a whole lot. Just sitting in here. Got headphones on. Got my phone with me. Got my computer with me. Got my notes. I'm ready to haul some ass. Ready to get any questions you need from me.
All right, you ready to go? We're also here with Lito. Lito, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm living the dream, man. Living the dream. Getting ready to pick this man's brain and have him tell us why Mariota is just so awesome and why the Titans are going to be in the Super Bowl in the next few years. Because
Wait, that's why I'm on this podcast?
yes.
I thought it was in the trash talking. Man.
No, we're going to be trash talking the Browns later on. Right now, we're just loving on the Titans.
Oh, man. I'm all for it.
All right, cool.
All right. Well, and just to be clear, this is an objective point of view. John's not a Titans fan. He's a Browns fan. And like Lito mentioned, we'll get to that a little bit later. So, John, tell us a little bit about what you do, what you study.
So I do this thing called the Default Project. This is going to be the fourth year that I have done it. I've done it since 2014. Default Project was something I did back then. It charts every throw that makes it at least 16 yards in the air, with some exceptions. I don't chart plays that are thrown away. I don't chart miscommunications where a wide receiver and a quarterback aren't on the same page, and it's not really obvious who's at fault. I don't chart plays that are offset by penalties, such as defensive offside, where a incompletion is happening. If a pass is completed on a defensive offside, I count it. If a pass is incomplete and there's a penalty made offensive decline, I count it. I also don't count plays that are deflected before they reach 16 air yards. So with that said, with each new addition, I've added new stats such as accuracy percentage, which is the most important one, which it is the one that I am really strict on the highest on. I used that one in the 2016 edition of the Default Project. Accuracy percentage taking into account how accurate the throw is, regardless of whether it drops or not. This includes timing contested passes that may or may not actually be considered accurate depending on the placement. Poor attempts in playing the ball are usually considered accurate throws. So it's not as simple as just dropping it, catching it. Sometimes you have to win on contested catches. You got to haul the ball in. You got to be able to keep your feet in the bounds, and a lot of times people don't. So basically, that's what I do. I go a bit beyond the traditional status quo that people consider to be accuracy in that regard.
Definitely, man. I mean, you're kind of putting together a lot of different elements together to get this one focus. So how did you exactly develop the deep ball project? What triggered you to develop this?
Well, it all started when I was in my dorm room, just randomly watching football players, randomly watching games. And I was watching the play-by-play, and obviously, the play-by-play typically measures each play as short or deep. So I thought to myself, it would be a pretty cool idea just to calculate, chart all the deep throws, all the deep plays, see which quarterbacks are the best of it, see which quarterbacks are the absolute worst of it. I didn't really plan for it to be an annual thing until I was confident that I could make a full chart, a full list of at least 30, 31, 32 quarterbacks. So that's kind of how it started, and since then, it's probably the thing I'm best known for outside of the gift runs that seem to be spreading like wildfire.
Definitely, man. Well, I mean, very, very interesting, man. And I think it does dig a little bit deeper than just the box score statistics that a lot of people try to reference, because there are a lot of different factors, especially in quarterback play, that can influence exactly how good the quarterback is perceived to be, if that makes sense.
I haven't actually been a guy that followed sites such as Pro Football Focus. I don't get me wrong, I do respect that they've been able to convert a lot of people into not just judging box score stats, into watching more film. But I feel as if they're downfield stats that basically look at passer rating, basically ignore whether throw is accurate or not. And what they did was partially why I responded with the Deep Ball Project. That's kind of how I was able to do that. Because my Deep Ball Project is a response to how people look at all these downfield passing stats and consider it the gospel. So I was able to provide an alternate source of statistics, alternate source that goes beyond the Call of Duty, and tries to put more context in with each and every new edition of the Deep Ball Project.
Great. Well, on that note, let's talk about our favorite quarterback, Lito, the Hawaiian hero. You've heard of him, right? You're familiar with him?
Yeah, I've heard of him, I guess.
Okay, so Mariota. First, we'll try to take it at a different angle. Number 2 overall pick. Second to Winston. Those two are going to be forever linked, no matter what. I mean, the rivalry, you could say, started in college.
Right.
And have to throw it in there, Mariota's 2-0 against Winston. So where do you see them now going into year 4?
From both quarterbacks, as far as similarities go, Mariota and Winston both play in bad offenses that ask them generally to carry the majority of the offense. There's one key difference between them in terms of how their supporting cast operate. It's that Mariota is able to leave less plays in the field in regards to open receivers than Winston. Jameis Winston is kind of known for overthrowing these talented receivers that he has. Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson. Isn't Mike Evans 6'5"? I don't understand how you overthrow that.
I know.
But getting deeper in regards to comparing both quarterbacks, I've noticed that Winston has greater arm strength. He's more of a guy that you would see as a downfield passer, even though he's not a better downfield passer than Mariota in my eyes in terms of accuracy. he has more of a focus to create on unstructured plays than Mariota. But I have noticed that he has a weaker use of his arm talent. He's not able to control how much velocity he has. He's not. I mean, I should say he's not able to control it very well. And
Right.
as before mentioned, he's much less accurate. Mariota is more disciplined as a pocket passer. He has more of a running ability, and he does a better job of diagnosing defenses. Which, for example, and this is something that I have noticed for a while. He's able to move defenses, move secondaries with his eyes as he is throwing the ball, not before he's throwing the ball, as he's throwing the ball. So as he's throwing the ball, he looks to be throwing in the same direction as the secondary is looking. And then he just creates open windows result because no one's guarding the receiver. They have no idea that they're open.
Yeah, he's kind of known for that, man. The no look pass. I mean, we saw that quite a bit over the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, it wasn't there as much as in his second season and his third season, but I still saw it in some regard. As far as the supporting cast go, Mariota obviously has the better offensive line, and you know what's going to wait to your thing. Winston has the better wide receivers, better tight end play. Delaney Walker had a couple of drops. We'll get to that later in the pod.
Yeah.
And as far as people project goes, throws 16+ air yards. Winston just barely had better accuracy in 2016, but in 2017, Mariota had a 62.4% accuracy percentage on throws to 16+ air yards, while Jameis Winston had 49.4%. To be fair, Winston did actually improve his accuracy percentage his last 3 games. I think it was at like 45%, 41% before then. So he was able to improve that. But in general, he hasn't really been. He's been a little least accurate downfield passer, which has honestly been a staple of his game, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, no, I can see you showing. I can see what you're saying there. Winston, to me, if I'm gonna throw my 2 cents between him and Mariota, Winston to me at times tries to do too much, like tries to hit the home run just too much, man. And I think he's benefited from having a better solid foundation in terms of coaching in his early years that I think had Mariota had that same coaching, had he had Cotter, helping him, Mariota would have developed a lot better, I guess, than Winston has. Just because I think Mariota is a little bit more coachable, and he doesn't try to do too much. He tries to do just enough because he doesn't want to hinder his team by making a costly mistake. Which can be good and can be bad.
I suppose, but in Winston's defense, Dirk Cotter isn't that great of a coach either. He generally asks Winston to throw vertically way too much. Obviously, they have the receivers to do it. Sean Jackson is one of the best vertical receivers of our generation, as is Mike Evans. Cameron Brady is a guy that can work really well downfield. O.J. Howard, up-and-coming rookie tight end, that can also do that. But the reason I say this is because the offensive line that Tampa Bay has is awful.
They're horrible. They are horrible.
This is not an offensive line that you can use to push the ball downfield. This is an offensive line that you use when you need to use short yardage plays, underneath throws to get yards after the catch, bubble screens, jet sweeps, all of that. And they don't really have those players. They have guys that can push their routes downfield, and the problem is it's not a perfect match. If the Buccaneers had something like the Steelers offensive line or the Eagles offensive line, then this would be the perfect offense to push the ball downfield because you need to drop back, you need to hold the ball as long as you can, so that you feel comfortable throwing downfield. The problem is there's so much pressure put on Winston. It's very hard to blame him for a lot of these plays.
Yeah. Oh, what do you think, Lito? You're still here with us, right?
Oh man, I'm here. I'm just learning. I'm just soaking it all in, man.
Well, in regards to this, man, when I first started getting into the whole blogging game and writing about the Titans, one of the first things I focused on was actually the potential link between careers between Mariota and Winston, and I focused on their first 2 seasons of play. And one of the main things I focused on was their surrounding cast. And in everything that I came to, numbers wise, I focused individually on Mariota versus Winston head to head. I focused on who their running backs were. I focused on who their receivers were, and then I focused on the offensive line. And for the casual fan or the non Titans, non Bucks fan who looks at the two, a lot of them kind of give the edge to Winston, and I think that's mainly because he does have more touchdown passes, or he did prior to the 2017 season. I had to check the numbers. I think he's still a little bit ahead of Marcus, but Marcus also missed games in his first two seasons. And what I did, and I want to get your guys' feedback on this. What I did was I put all their numbers together and compare them to each other. And, Mariota, from the numbers that I have, Mariota, his passer rating in his first two seasons was 93.8 compared to Winston's 85.2. His completion percentage was 61.6 compared to Winston's 59.6. In the first two seasons, Marcus ran for 601 yards and Winston ran for 378. And this is what's interesting though. Winston had 7 rushing touchdowns compared to Marcus's 4. Now, when looking at their touchdown passes, Winston had nearly 23 more touchdown passes than Marcus did in their first two seasons, but he also had a lot more interceptions too. I believe I saw on your Twitter that you had tweeted something that Winston is the closest thing you've seen to Brett Favre.
Yeah.
Now, how I took that is Brett Favre was the ultimate. He'll either lift your heart up or he'll break your heart in two, because he'll either make the big huge play, the prayer play, or he'll make the one boneheaded mistake that you just can't believe he would do. And I'm kind of thinking that's where you were going in terms of comparing Winston to Favre. Am I in the ballpark? Am I close?
Yeah, but it at the same time, it wasn't comparing the performance. I'm not going to underscore that Winston has done some incredible things at his peak in terms of peak level play. But obviously, Brett Favre at his peak was just phenomenal. And yeah, we know he's probably the most inconsistent quarterback we will ever see. But at the same time, what he did in 1995, 1996, 1997, all those Pro Bowl years in Green Bay.
Oh yeah.
And especially that year he had in Minnesota in 2009. That's the stuff that I'm not really sure Jameis Winston can touch. I mean, it is possible. It is possible. If a guy I think it fits in as Brett Favre could be a legend in the NFL and be this Hall of Fame player, then I don't see why Winston and Mariota couldn't be.
Well, on that note, heading into 2017, last season, Mariota got a whole new crop of weapons, and they didn't exactly turn out the way a lot of us Titans fans expected. We expected to see a lot more deep balls, a lot more stretching the field, a lot more offense in general opening up. And I think a lot of that was dependent on a repeat performance of the offensive line and also a repeat performance of the running backs. And since neither of that really happened, there literally was the offense was hard to watch. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I think in regards to the run game, obviously DeMarco Murray declined big time. He wasn't the same quick guy that you could depend on to break tackles. He wasn't a guy that could make men miss in open space. So it was pretty infuriating to see him still get carries over Derrick Henry. Of course, that ended when he was injured to end his season, and then the Titans finally gave Derrick Henry some starts. In regards to
they had no choice.
In regards to the skill players, Corey Davis, he was a bit disappointing, but to be fair, he struggled with help with Jackson's ability to create separation, make contested catches. So he's had a limited sample size. He only started 2 games before injuries took over, and then fortunately he was able to come back, try and work his way downfield. If at all possible, he does improve. I can't see him becoming this Terrell Owens kind of guy, because he's got the same speed downfield, can create contested catches. So there's that going for him. Eric Decker was obviously a disappointment. I felt he was mostly a liability all season, especially with how many balls he drops. Obviously, against the Jaguars, Week 17, I think he had 3 consecutive targets. All of them were drops. That was especially atrocious. Although he did have that touchdown against the Chiefs again when he won the game.
And totally redeemed himself.
Yeah. and his wife, too. Definitely. Delaney Walker was actually the most surprising of the three because he was in previous seasons one of the absolute best tight ends in the league. He was an excellent possession receiver that can work tight coverage. The problem is his athleticism hasn't declined at all. He's old, but his athleticism hasn't declined at all. He's still extremely athletic. I just felt he had an off season like Decker. He dropped way too many passes for his own good. For example, that touchdown drop he had against the 49ers in, I think, week 14. That doesn't really matter. What matters is he dropped that touchdown. Probably could have won that game had he not dropped that touchdown. But I don't know. It is what it is. Before this pod, I actually took the time to watch Jonnu Smith, who they drafted in the 3rd round in 2017. I do think he could be replaced in a couple of years. I will say, he has limited sample size. From what I can see, he's very athletic, quick and open space, but he does need to prove himself as a possession receiver. He had a few drops. There's one, for example, he had a bad drop in the opening drive against the Browns in Week 7. And finally, Rashard Matthews, who I felt played most consistently in 2017 of the wide receivers, but again, he's not the most well-rounded player himself. I feel he's a very sluggish route runner with inconsistent hands. He had that awful touchdown drop against the Bengals, which was a big strike on him. So that's pretty surprised Titans won that game. With that luck, you expect them to lose.
Man, you hit on a lot of points there. You hit it, and you're pretty accurate for not being a Titans fan, man. Everything that we saw all season, you kind of just summed it up in a matter of minutes. What I kind of think, and Lito might want to weigh in on this, so I'm just going to throw this out there. For the entire receiving core, it was an off year, and it was an unexpected off year, considering, we expected them to do really well. I think what played a huge part into it, and this is my own opinion, you all can give your own takes on it, but I think it had to do with lack of confidence in the offense. And the lack of confidence in the offense kind of generated a lack of confidence within each individual player that had them second guessing themselves. Like Delaney, if you would have told me prior to the season that he would have dropped multiple touchdowns, I would have called you a liar, because he has He was the most sure-handed guy we have on the team. The same for Rashard. Like he was automatic not last season, but the season prior.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, I mean, he struggled too. And I'm wondering, was that more coaching? Was that more the coaches not doing enough to coach the players up on these type of mistakes? Or was that just the players feeling kind of flat in terms of the offense that could have been a little more high-powered?
I do think it's a combination of both. The coaching wasn't actually putting the receivers in spots where they could succeed, but at the same time, they were dropping passes that they should have easily catched. I mentioned Eric Decker. He had that his third drop against the Jaguars. It was a 3rd and long. It was a ball that he should have caught. There was no reason for him to drop it. I didn't understand why he dropped it. I mean, obviously he didn't mean to drop it. No one tries to drop anything on purpose unless they want to make some outrageous statement, but that's not what they do for. So I think it's a combination of both receivers not executing as well as the coaches not putting them in spots where they can really execute.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Lito, I want to hear a little bit from you, man. I want to hear what you think about this.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the things that you actually said. As far as Delaney Walker, he is one of our most consistent. He's led receptions and yardage, I think, the past couple of years, or at least top 2 at the very least. So it's good to know that you see Jonnu Smith coming in, kind of being the heir apparent to that position, because we got Delaney Walker towards the end of his contract and towards like the end of his years. So if we can get like a Jonnu or Delaney Walker type clone from the beginning, that would, I would sleep better at night. That would make me feel so much better, and it's good to have validation from you on that. So I appreciate that. But
That's what I'm here for.
hey man, I appreciate that. Anytime I need a second opinion on something, I'm just gonna ask you, and I just want you to tell me what I want to hear. The other stuff, though, the other stuff, Corey Davis is good. Rashard Matthews, I mean, across the board, they all did kind of take a step back, it seemed like, and it does seem to be a coaching and scheme issue, because they were very out of character this year, and I think going forward they should be back on track. We got the wide receivers coach from Oakland. He's coached a bunch of really productive guys, and we have people who are going to put an emphasis on that small stuff, and then plus LaFleur scheming them open a lot better instead of bunch routes every other play and then just draws up the middle. And I think once the wide receivers get more involved and their confidence built up, it's not going to take very long this year with the new scheme.
Yeah, I don't think so either, man. I think that LaFleur is going to be a breath of fresh air into the offense, and I think once our players, because we have the talent, the talent's there, but a talented player playing with zero confidence is not as deadly as they could be, and almost ineffective. You brought up LaFleur, and I know you're familiar with LaFleur, John. Why don't can you talk a little bit about LaFleur and how you think he'll impact the offense and the offensive development? Maybe what influence he'll have on Mariota moving forward. Anything you have on him?
Well, start with that. We got to focus on what Mariota was asked to do in previous years. In those previous years, Mariota was asked to play in a vertical offense that didn't really fit his skill set, and he was also moved away from being a pocket passer, where I personally think he's at his best. So with Matt LaFleur being connected to Shaman's Bay, he should bring the same quick passing game that he brought Jared Goff in Los Angeles, help bring Jared Goff in Los Angeles, I should say. One that emphasizes his ability on run pass option, one that emphasizes his ability to diagnose defenses and strike for the open receiver immediately, because I think Mariota kind of has the same skill set as Tom Brady in that regard in terms of quick processing. I personally think one other guy that could hugely benefit from Matt LaFleur is Taywan Taylor, because I think he can be the team's gadget player, someone like a Kevon Austin or what Tyreek, be the guy that's on all these screens and jet sweeps because of the speed and athleticism. So hopefully this will also be able to bring better offensive line formations than they had in the past, because under Mike Mularkey, Terry Robitsky, they would often bring 7-man protective teams that had 2 receivers downfield and isolated routes, which made the offense pretty predictable, and it was easy for defense to adjust when they played the Titans this season. So in addition to the quick passing, I think they should emphasize the RPO passing game to help maximize Mariota, the run game, and the offensive line as a whole.
Great stuff. I would agree with you. I think the fact that we can expect LaFleur to kind of tailor the offense to what Mariota does well, and incorporating weapons that were misused last year, like Taywan Taylor, incorporating the speed and the savvy route running, instilling a type of confidence in each player, letting each player know that they're important to the offense as a whole, feeding every receiver to keep them all happy. I think that's going to do wonders for the offense. And the fact that Derrick Henry will finally be the lead back, I think will play a huge role in how the offense moves moving forward.
Yeah, it seems like with this new setup, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, John, it seems like he's going to have a lot more like silver platter throws that are just going to be like, okay, here's your guy. I mean, he's not going to need to fit it into, a tight window over 3 or 4 Indianapolis Colts to Delaney Walker and a bucket on the sideline. Like, he's going to have much more defined reads and defined throws. Is that right?
Absolutely. It was the same thing that Jared Goff had last year with Sean McVay and LaFleur. You would have all these guys that were constantly open underneath, all these guys that were open up after play action, more pass option plays. So I can see that happening in Tennessee as long as LaFleur plays to the exact same level that he did with McVay in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's comforting as well.
Sure is.
So, I mean, with this young wide receiver group, they're going to be able to kind of build their confidence with these more defined routes and in a little bit more open passes. Do you think we still need like that Decker type of presence going forward, or do you think our wide receivers should be able to go forward as it is without any veteran presence or quote unquote mentors in the room with them?
They do need a proven vertical threat. Someone like Sammy Watkins, someone like Allen Robinson, a guy that can help mentor Corey Davis, as well as a guy that can dominate vertically and against man coverage on their own.
If the Titans are able to sign Sammy Watkins, what impact do you think he could have on the offense outside of just being a mentor for Corey Davis? And would he be willing to accept that role as being a mentor? Because that's what he kind of was, or that's what he kind of had to be for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I think he could be this kind of vertical threat all-around threat for the Titans. He had 593 yards in Los Angeles, but I thought the big reason for that, the only reason for that, was because Goff kept missing it despite him constantly getting separation. He was constantly missing a wide-open Sammy Watkins on a lot of these vertical routes, and I found out when I'm starting him for this edition of the Deep Ball Project. But I think he'd be perfect in Tennessee because he has the fluid athleticism, strong hands. Obviously, he could be a Metro Davis, a deep threat for Mariota. So he's an all-around threat that can provide as a yards after the cash option, a guy that can work underneath, and especially a guy that can win on consistent catches downfield.
So with those passes that Goff missed on him, do you think those are passes that Mariota can make comfortably?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
For some reason, I don't think Tennessee's going to be able to sign Sammy. I don't foresee it happening. I'm hopeful, but I don't foresee it happening. I think if they're able to get him on a cheap deal, a fair deal to both sides, I think they will. John Robinson will definitely check the price tag. But I think a guy Tennessee could be looking more likely to look towards would be Paul Richardson from the Seattle Seahawks. Are you familiar with him at all?
Yeah, I think he's extremely overlooked as a receiver. He's actually got this underrated ability as a vertical threat. Incredible ball skills. We saw that against the Lions in that playoff game in 2016. He's this guy that could definitely be a vertical threat if the Titans don't get Sammy Watkins, aren't able to get him, because he is a guy that has been kind of overshadowed because he's playing with Russell Wilson, who's a guy that is known for enhancing the run game and also having more of a chemistry with Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett than he did with Richardson. In past season, Richardson hasn't been the healthiest wide receiver. Last season, he was able to change that. He was able to be the wide receiver too in his own regard. So I think Tennessee would be wise to go after him.
Yeah, I could see them going after Richardson. And a part of why I could see them going after Richardson is it wouldn't be Richardson's not a true number one receiver. And I think the Titans, having drafted Davis at 5th overall, I think they want him, and they're kind of hoping that he is a true number one, even though not many people have seen that from him now. But I think he has the potential to be. And I think kind of if they sign Sammy Watkins, I don't know how that would affect Davis's confidence, if at all. But I think if they do sign a guy like Paul Richardson, you wouldn't necessarily be signing somebody who's gonna take away balls that should be a number one receiver balls. Does that kind of make sense? Like it wouldn't be as much pressure on Davis if they brought in Paul Richardson.
Yeah, I actually think he's going to be a guy that complements Davis' skill set because they're both vertical threats that can make these outlandish catches. So I think it'll all work out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there, man. It's going to be very interesting within the next few months what the team chooses to do.
Yeah.
For all we know, they could keep Decker. I mean,
Oh, don't say
we
that.
we don't know, man. I mean, we really don't know what direction they're going to take. I'm positive that Vrabel and Robinson are really going to do some deep thinking on the roster as it sits now, and really decide if they need to add anybody at all offensively. Maybe it could have just been the coaches were just bad for the offense, which I think they were. Is it possible to upgrade some of those positions? Of course, but you could say that almost about any team. It's possible to upgrade at any position. It just depends on who's available and who's in our price range. So I think now, since we've kind of focused on offense for quite a bit, let's talk a little bit about defense. Kevin Byard, standout player last season, had the best season of his career, and it's only the second season of his career. A lot of his success could be contributed to the leadership of Dick LeBeau. With LeBeau out and Pease in, how do you see, John, this question's for you. How do you see Byard evolving into year three? And do you see him ascending or at least maintaining his position as one of the top safeties in the league, considering that Pease puts an emphasis on safety play in his defensive design?
Yeah, in terms of in terms of the Dean Pease connection with safeties, I actually think that Kevin Byard could see a level of progression, which is already kind of crazy talk because I think he's a top 5 safety. He's a phenomenal safety in that regard. He's got some of the most disciplined footwork. He's got excellent ball skills, which was a particular reason why he had 8 interceptions in the first place, because he was able to extend his arms like a wide receiver and just make some outlandish interceptions. In terms of his ranking with other free safeties, I think he's not quite as good as Earl Thomas, but he's in the same ballpark as fine Earl Thomas. So, your defensive coordinator, Gene Pease, in my opinion, could use him as the real core, the real meat of the defense because of his connections with emphasizing the safety play. So he'll be, obviously as a free safety, he'll be constantly spying on guys. That would be very effective in cover 2, which specializes in taking away deep passing. So his connection with safeties would allow him to connect with Byard in a way that I never really felt Dick LeBeau did.
I think something that you mentioned that I wanted to hit on is you mentioned his ball hawking ability, in terms of his ability to stretch his arms and kind of transform into a wide receiver. One interesting fact that I'm not sure if you're aware of, but Byard, I think what makes him so good is he's such a well-rounded player, and a lot of that stems from high school, actually. I don't even know if you know this, Lito, but I'm throwing it out there. Byard actually played quarterback and wide receiver during his high school career, and actually transitioned.
That makes a lot of sense then.
Yeah, so for me, when I was studying Byard way back when, I thought that was one overlooked but very instrumental element of his game that would help him elevate to the cream of the crop, to one of the top safeties in the league, because he's familiar with the mental procedures that a quarterback has to take. Look off defenders, place the ball with their eye, yada yada yada, and also his familiarity with how the movement a wide receiver has to make when they're going in and out of their breaks and in and out of their routes. I think that helped him tremendously, and I just wanted to throw that little carrot in there because I think it's important in terms of understanding Byard as a whole.
Yeah.
You also mentioned his ability as a quarterback. Do you think Matt LaFleur is gonna use him as a passer on like one of these trick plays? Because I think that's possible. Matt LaFleur is a pretty creative offensive coordinator.
I think if he does, it won't be with Byard. I think it'll be with Adoree Jackson. I think he'll put him in there in some form or fashion and try to use him in that speed back role or jet sweep role.
if Nick Foles can be a wide receiver, Kevin Byard can be a quarterback.
Why
That's
not?
my take.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? That happened.
Yeah,
And it
but
was successful on that part.
yeah, but Nick Foles' touchdown reception wasn't near as pretty as Mariota's. His two, actually, the one to himself and the one where he went streaking down the sideline and made the cornerback fall on his butt. That one was pretty too. But
Oh, against the Jets?
yeah, I knew Byard he played different positions, but what I'm really excited about that for is his favorite player, like he mentions it all the time, of all time, is Ed Reed. And Dean Pease coached Ed Reed. And so I don't think he's going to have.
Appropriate.
What's that?
Appropriate.
Yeah, and I know he was really close with LeBeau. You know, LeBeau called him his son and everything like that, and I think that's great. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's going to be very difficult for him to transition to a close relationship with Dean Pease because of that connection. And he can be like, "Hey, just teach me." And I think if he was going to get replaced with anybody, if LeBeau was going to get replaced with anybody, and Byard was still going to be positive outlook, it was going to be Dean Pease. He is familiar with coaching a ball hawk type safety like Ed Reed.
There's two very telling quotes that could offer some kind of foreshadowing of what to expect from Byard in the future. Some of these quotes were prior to him being drafted. To me, they shed light on his overall mental makeup. I just want to share them with you guys, and just in case you're not familiar with them. This is why I have such a high ceiling for Byard. I don't think he's even come close to reaching it yet. But one quote that Byard made, he says, somebody asked him if he thought luck was an important factor in his play because he had garnered so many interceptions in college. And here's what he said. He said, "I would never say it's luck. My preparation is a big part of it. I study a lot of film and different things. Also, playing offense and wide receiver in high school, that's something that helped my ball skills. And playing quarterback helped with route combinations. So my offensive background has helped a lot. Safety is the quarterback of the defense. So it's doing the same thing, but on the other side of the ball. I trust my instincts." Now, I mean, when I read that, I was floored. And this was right after we drafted the guy. So I said, man, he's going to be a very super special player if this is the type of player that we're bringing onto the team. And also, I asked myself, how is this guy overlooked? Like with answers like that. That to me screams football player.
Yeah.
Another quote, and this kind of proves the foreshadowing, being that Byard made an All-Pro his second season. This was again before he was drafted. He says, "I see myself as an All-Pro safety. I don't strive for mediocrity. I don't want average. I want to be the best in whatever league I'm playing in. I see myself as an All-Pro safety, and it's something I always visualize. As long as I'm in the NFL, I'll work to be the best in the league." How can you not love Byard? I mean, John, you might even order a Byard jersey after this interview. I'm just saying. That is.
You don't know if I have a Byard jersey right now. I may have one right now, actually.
Oh yeah, you might be wearing one for the interview.
Yeah, I'm definitely wearing one without pants. Wait, what?
No, I just think it's.
Oh, we're live. Oh, look.
I just think it's crazy, man. I just think I wonder how a guy like Byard, regardless of being a small school guy, how did he get overlooked?
I don't know. Just draft processing is awful.
Yeah, that's probably the best answer.
Yeah, but if John Robinson didn't have the connection to the coaching staff in Middle Tennessee, he may have overlooked him too, because he wasn't
You're
even
right.
on his radar until that guy called him up and said, "Hey, I got a guy that you should really look at." And he didn't get a combine invite, he didn't get anything, but he was one of the first people that we brought in for an actual visit. Well, he's a local visit, but he was one of the first people there. And then we pulled him in the third round, and everyone's like, he should be okay. And now he's an All-Pro, and he's just like, eat it. I love him.
Well, I mean, he hardly saw any action last year. I mean, not last season, but in his rookie year. They kind of were careful with using him, and he was more of a situational player. Came on stronger later down his rookie season. But man, last year he was just He was crazy, man. And I'm expecting a big year 3 from him.
Yeah, so John, whenever you're charting next year's deep ball throws, you're probably going to run into a few that old Byard's going to jump up and pick them off.
I mean, hey, I've already ran into a few where he's intercepted them. I think I wouldn't be surprised to find a few more this season.
Dory's going to get his first coming up, and it's going to be great, man. I'm excited.
He's phenomenal.
Hopefully. I mean, I think we kind of hit a lot of good spots on the Titans, but something that both Lito and myself kind of wanted to ask you, John, is enough talking Titans. Tell us your team. You're a Cleveland Browns fan, right?
Unfortunately.
Okay, explain to us the mind frame of a Cleveland Browns fan. Like what is that like, man?
Like, how do you do that to yourself?
Well, it's actually not as tough as you would think for 3 reasons. One, I can bandwagon any team I want whenever they suck. For example, last year I bandwagoned the Vikings, and that went really well. They have 2 wide receiver ones disguised as wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, both are absolutely phenomenal all-around receivers that can work any area of the field, thrive anywhere. Dalvin Cook is a guy that when he comes back is going to be a phenomenal runner, and I'm not sure what they're going to keep Jarrett McKinnon. I doubt they're going to keep him, but he was fun to watch. As was Latavius Murray, and especially that defense. That defense was just sensational. Everson Griffin for a while was my defensive player of the year. He just the timing that he has for line of scrimmage is just phenomenal. It's something that I rarely see at the level that he's executing. And of course, Pat Shurmur did a fantastic job executing the offensive, running a quarterback-friendly environment for Case Keenum throughout the season. Second reason it's not too tough to be a Browns fan, because even if they suck, I can always watch the Cavs and the Indians because they're both good teams. And honestly, watching LeBron really is pretty fun. I don't know if you heard, but it's fun. Third reason is actually a lot of young talent on both sides of the ball for the Browns. It's just that the coaching is absolutely awful. They got guys like David Njoku, Josh Gordon, who they'll most likely sign if they don't pull Browns and let him not play. So there's one thing I should mention. He is an exclusive rights free agent, so that means if he doesn't sign, he doesn't play at all with any team. So there's a certain date where they have to sign that back, and hopefully it happens. Duke Johnson's another guy I really like. He's one of the best receiving backs in the league.
I like Duke Johnson. I think he's really good, man.
Love Duke Johnson. Myles Garrett's another guy that's been phenomenal. For some reason, a lot of Browns fans, not a lot, some Browns fans don't like him, think he's a bust, which is really stupid. But then again, I'm very used to that because Browns Twitter is awful. Absolutely, some of the worst people you've ever made. Very dumb, very stupid.
Oh.
Emmanuel Ogbah, Jamie Collins are also phenomenal players I really like. So
you haven't mentioned one guy that I really like, though, man. Maybe you didn't. I just didn't catch it. Danny Shelton. No, I was talking about Danny Shelton, man. I love Danny Shelton. I liked him in Washington. I mean, he got injured, if I'm not mistaken, last season, right? Some kind of leg injury or.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Danny Shelton. I think he's a good nose tackle.
Yeah, he's not the fastest guy, but honestly, he's been able to improve from his 2015 season, and he's a better player as a result.
Is he a free agent?
Yeah, those are my 3 reasons. Yeah, after 2018, yes. He's got 1 more year, I believe. I don't know if they picked up his 5th-year option. He was a 5th-round pick, right?
Yeah, he was a first-round pick.
First-round pick. I said 5th. My God.
Yeah, he was a first-round pick.
There we go. Sorry, 5th and 1st, clearly not different. They're so similar.
Hey, you don't need to apologize to us, man. You're good.
Yeah, it's a 4th-year deal. I don't think they picked up the 5th-year option.
Well, if he's on the market, man, I mean, Nashville would be a nice place for him.
It could be available. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have one relative who is a Browns fan, and it's my auntie, and it's really just because everyone had a team, and we asked her what her team was, and she said I don't really follow it, and we're like, well, we have to have a team, like you need to find someone that you're gonna root for, and she's like, well, who's the worst in the league right now? And this was 10 plus years ago, and everyone just unanimously said the Browns. And it's just, and
And
she,
10 years later, oh
yeah,
man,
and you gotta
Nothing
give her
changed.
props. No, she stuck with them, and she just likes the underdog, and so there's a few people outside of Ohio that are pulling for them. Maybe not by much. The only time I really mention the Browns if I have too much Mexican food and need to use the restroom, I always just say I need a. My saying
Gotta take the
is
Browns to the Super Bowl.
exactly. It's the only time they get to go, man. Yeah, it's the only time they get to go, so I got to give them a little bit of shout out. So you're
Yeah,
good,
I've
man.
only actually met one Browns fan too in my lifetime, bro. I've only actually met one Browns fan, and I remember we were camping, and there was these group of people there camping alongside of us, and we're at, that's conversational. Who do you like? Who's your team? That's just something you say. And this girl, she said the Browns, and all of us thought she was joking around, man. We were like, no, for real, what's your team? No,
Y'all
the
laughing your
Browns.
asses off. Like,
Yeah. Oh man, she was serious, bro. She had a brown sweater, like right there, like that was her sweater that she had. I was like,
like
oh,
Stockholm
but
syndrome.
I just had respect, bro, because I'm with you, John. I mean, I have a lot of respect for any Browns fan because you guys have stuck it out. I didn't want them to go 0-16.
I
I
didn't
don't know,
think
man.
they'd go 0-16, but at the same time, I didn't think Hugh Jackson would suddenly become this awful play caller. I actually thought he had some really good play calls in 2016. Managed to create an offensive-friendly environment, quarterback-friendly environment. And for some reason, he just went completely against that with Sean Kaiser. And
I didn't understand that, man. I didn't
yeah,
understand him pulling Kaiser out, putting him in. That's like the worst thing you can do to a rookie quarterback.
yeah, first 4 games, really was I was like, not that big of a deal. They'll pull it through somewhere. And then he benched Kaiser. I was just like, well, he's lost it. And then he started to throw everyone on his boss, saying like, no one can handle my job. Like, yeah, absolutely, Hugh. No one can go 0-16 the way you did.
Yeah.
No one can do it. Only one other team has done it. Congrats to you.
What is it? January 31st is National Hugh Jackson Day, right? 1-31.
131.
Oh man.
I'm gonna remember that forever. That
The only problem with that is if he goes 1-47, there's no day on the calendar that can actually mark that. So what's going to be Hugh Jackson Day?
I don't know. He's gonna get his own time on the clock eventually.
That's too funny, man.
I mean, if he gets fired in the middle of the season somehow, we can work around that. Provide a new calendar day.
Yeah, there you go. Always look on the bright side.
What do you hope the Browns do, man? I mean, you guys have a boatload of picks. You guys have a boatload of money, I believe, to spend. What do you see them doing, or what would you do if you were the GM?
I would spend it on a couple of defensive backs. The secondary for the Browns is really good. The front seven's phenomenal. Secondary definitely needs a lot of work. Definitely needs a lot of polish. So I haven't really looked at some defensive back prospects yet, but I'm sure there's some good ones out there. And once I'll be able to dive in, I'll be able to see which ones the Browns need. And there's also been a lot of connections with, say, Saquon Barkley. I don't know how to pronounce his first name, but just call him Barkley as running back, because I'm pretty sure they're going to move on from Isaiah Crowell because he had his tensions with Hugh Jackson, as with any normal person playing for the Browns, because Hugh Jackson is that big monster. But that's not the question. I think they would try to go after the receiver, I guess. I think the tight end position is pretty set. David Njoku's a really good young tight end. Man.
He's solid.
Seth Val's a solid backup. There really isn't much of a need for positions as much as it is for Greg Williams and Hugh Jackson to get their shit together personally. because there's actually a lot of talent on this team. You're just getting held back by probably the worst
There
coach
is,
you will
man.
ever see.
And to think at one point I wanted Hugh Jackson to coach Tennessee, man. But
Yeah, I mean, there's really no difference between him and Mike Mularkey, except Mike Mularkey actually has more than one win.
no.
That's literally the only difference. Literally the only difference.
Plus, Mike Mularkey
Unanswered prayers, man. Unanswered prayers. Some of God's greatest gifts.
I think Mularkey even has more playoff wins than Hugh Jackson, doesn't he?
Hugh Jackson doesn't even have a playoff one.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was with Marvin Lewis, who still don't have a playoff win.
Marvin Lewis is
By
a
the
whole
way,
nother topic.
Yeah. By the way, just want to point this out. Mike Mularkey in one postseason trip, one postseason, one playoff win. Marvin Lewis in 8 postseason trips, 0. How is that possible?
Because everything in Ohio sucks.
I just think with when I think about
LeBron Mexico kick your ass.
You have LeBron. That's like
Would you say Ohio?
you have LeBron and the Hall of Fame. Outside of that, what is in Ohio?
Hey, bro, we're in New Mexico, man. Take it easy.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, Lake Erie's nice in the summer when it's not cloudy, so there is that.
See, whenever I went to the Titans game, we were playing the Browns, and it was in Nashville, and there was also a really big college game that week, the Buckeyes, and so Nashville was just flooded with Ohio fans, and it was just like,
Go Bucks.
it was your fans travel extremely well. I'll give you that much because I was like in a bar in Nashville on Broadway Street, and I'm looking around and there is nothing but Browns and Buckeyes fans. And I'm just like, what the crap is going on? And they were all pretty cool. I mean, I didn't really get into it with any of them. I was like, why are you guys like so excited? And they're like, oh, we're
But
totally
I love
gonna
that,
win,
though, bro. I love that, though, bro. Like I love fans that support their teams, especially teams that have been on the barrels of the league, you know what I mean, for a decade now.
Yeah.
I love that, bro. I respect that. I admire that.
Yeah.
I felt like I was that. Yeah.
Here's a sad fact. I've been a Buckeyes fan my entire life. Never been to a Buckeyes game.
What?
What the hell am I doing?
How? And you lived there?
Yeah, I've tortured myself going to a bunch of Browns games. Never been to a Buckeyes game. 2 hours away from me though, so that's probably why.
Holy
wow.
Yeah, as opposed to Brown Stadium, which is 30 minutes away. So if I ever want to get punished, I can go down there easily, get home some money, and then be miserable for 2 hours, leave. Yeah.
Well, if you want to experience wins, man, just take that other hour and a half trip, man, and go see the Buckeyes, man.
Your head coach coached for the Buckeyes at one point.
Yep, he was a linebackers coach, and then he's like an alma mater, like alumni from Ohio State. Like they're dug in pretty deep at Ohio State.
Yep, from Akron nonetheless.
I didn't know that. Yeah. So maybe more than just LeBron James and Canton out of Ohio.
I have one more question for you, John, before we wrap this up. So you're the Titans general manager in 2015, and you see Mariota there, you see Jameis Winston there. Knowing what you know now, who would you take now? But knowing what you knew then, who would you have taken then? Would you make the same choices that the teams made, or do you think they should have went a different route? Do you think they should have flip-flopped, or do you think they went where they should have went?
I think they shouldn't regret taking Mariota. Obviously, he had that physical regression this season, but I felt he actually helped carry Tennessee to the playoffs. In regards to what he did, he had a run at the end of the Jaguars game, Week 17. He had that touchdown pass against the Chiefs and that block for Derrick Henry to seal the game up. So as a whole, his pocket movement is extremely underrated, and I just honestly don't understand why people fail to see how good he is as a pocket passer, because everyone's saying he's a running quarterback, like John Gruden has mentioned that a couple of times. What's amazing is how he's able to diagnose coverages by moving defenders with his eyes as he's throwing the ball, as I mentioned before. and he's able to create all these other receivers. He's also got disciplined footwork, excellent footwork, great ability against pressure. He's not bad. His mechanics are able to stay clean under pressure, unlike some guys. Joe Flacco. Sorry. Anyway, bringing up his improved downfield accuracy again. He's definitely improved that. I think he's a good downfield passer. And his accuracy in general on the tight windows is phenomenal. So I think they made that right move, and his statistical production should flourish under LaFleur, providing it's at the same level as McVay season prior.
Okay, so if you're Tampa Bay right now, do you wish you would have taken Mariota, or are you comfortable with taking Winston?
Here's what I see about Winston. Winston's a guy that is good enough to continue being a starter, but flawed enough that he's probably not going to be one of these top quarterbacks. He's one of these top 10, top 5 quarterbacks. I will say, if Winston's accuracy was even average accuracy, I think he would be a top 10 quarterback because he's able to do an excellent job diagnosing coverages. His pocket movement is just sensational. And as I said before, his peak play is just phenomenal. It's just the big problem is the one problem, and the big problem with the whole is the accuracy. It's just terrible. And he's constantly missing guys downfield. He's constantly overthrowing them, not even in the same area from. If he were, by some chance, to improve his accuracy, I don't think the Buccaneers would regret taking him at number 1 over Mariota.
Wow. Well, I'm happy with Tennessee. I'm happy that they chose Mariota. I actually like Mariota more than Winston when they were coming out. I thought he, mainly because of what you pointed out, his accuracy, I thought Mariota was way more accurate and way more composed, way more disciplined in his play. Whether we like it or not, these two are going to be linked till they hang up the cleats, man.
Yeah, and both of their first touchdown passes were to a Tennessee Titan, too. So
hey, I love that. I love that.
Something else.
We
I don't got anything else. No, I don't got anything else, Lito. I mean, unless you had anything else you wanted to add.
I'm good. John, you good?
No, I'm not good. The Cavs lost.
Well, then I'm good.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, John, you wanna plug your stuff?
Yeah. Follow me on Twitter at BrickWallBlitz. Visit my website at brickwallblitz.com. I'm also a writer for Purple PTSD. It's the Minnesota Vikings site. You can check out my content there. And during the season, I'll be making some threads, making some charts in the B-Ball project. I'll be sure to update on that. Probably going to do some of that after the conclusion of this podcast. So, again, my handle is BrickWallBlitz. I have stuff on my website, brickwallblitz.com, and at Purple PTSD. So I'll check it out if you want.
Definitely, man. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate your time.
No problem, Mo and Lito. Thanks.
All right, man. Appreciate it. We'll wrap this up. I think most people who are following us are following you, but guys, if you are not following him, definitely give him a follow. He's got so much good information, so much good insight. He'll shoot you straight. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So we appreciate it, John, and we'll let you go. We've kind of talked your ear off enough.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Take it easy.
All right, bud. Thanks, man.